Have you ever felt it? That quiet, twisting fear in your chest, when you know exactly what lies ahead, and you know it will hurt. The heartbreak that's coming, the sacrifice it will demand, the cost not just in time or effort, but in pieces of who you are. And yet, you ask yourself, do I still go? Not because you're forced, but because something inside you won't let you walk away. Most people, when they see danger, they run, they shut down, they make excuses. They call it wisdom or self-preservation. And truthfully, sometimes that's what keeps them alive. But then, there are others, those who see the cliff edge, feel the tremble in their knees, hear every whisper of doubt in their mind, and still take the step forward. Not because they don't feel fear, but because they choose something greater than fear. Sometimes, the bravest person in the room isn't the loudest, isn't the one charging in without thought. Sometimes, it's the one who knows exactly what could go wrong. Every wound, every cost, every heartbreak, and still says, I'm going anyway. Because real courage is not found in blindness, but in clarity. And still, you walk. Courage is often misunderstood. We romanticize the fearless, the ones who leap before looking, the ones who seem immune to doubt, numb to consequence. But that's not courage. That's recklessness. That's the absence of awareness. True courage is something else entirely. It lives in the person who sees the danger clearly, soberly, painfully, and still moves forward. It's not about ignorance. It's about choice. And that kind of courage is rarer than we think. The bravest are surely those who have the clearest vision of what is before them, yet go out to meet it anyway. They don't walk blindly. They don't run in hoping for luck. They walk in, knowing the cost, and choosing it anyway, because they believe something on the other side is worth it. It's one thing to act when you think you'll win. It's another thing entirely to act when you know you might lose. To look at the road ahead, see the heartbreak, the pain, the possible failure, and still say, let's go. That is courage. Not loud, not flashy, but fierce and unforgettable. Life lesson analysis. 1. Courage is not blindness. Some people think courage means being unafraid. That bravery is reserved for those who charge forward, unshaken, unbothered, untouched by fear. But that's not how real life works. That's not how real courage feels. Because real courage trembles. It hears the voice of fear, loud and close, screaming all the reasons to stop. It sees the risk. It feels the threat. It knows the consequences. And it walks anyway. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to move forward while fear walks beside you. It's in the soldier who steps into battle with shaking hands and tearful eyes. Not because he's fearless, but because he won't let fear make the decision for him. It's in the woman who speaks a truth that might cost her everything, but keeps her soul intact. It's in the person who gets up again after failing, not because they're certain of success this time, but because something inside them refuses to quit. The most courageous people are not the ones who feel invincible. They're the ones who feel everything and keep walking anyway. 2. Courage is knowing and choosing anyway. There's a different kind of bravery, the kind that doesn't come from adrenaline, but from awareness. It's not about acting blindly. It's about seeing clearly and still choosing to move forward. You know the truth might end a friendship, but you speak it anyway because honesty matters more than comfort. You know standing up for what's right could cost you your job, your reputation, your peace. But you do it anyway, because silence would betray who you are. You know the next chapter of your life may hold grief, may demand more strength than you think you have. But you walk into it because staying stuck would be a different kind of dying. That is courage, not the absence of struggle, but the refusal to back down from it. Not the guarantee of victory, but the willingness to face the fire, because something on the other side is worth being burned for. It's the parent who walks into the hospital room again after hearing another hard diagnosis. It's the addict who chooses sobriety again after falling for the 100th time. It's you, when you choose to stay kind in a world that hasn't been kind to you. These aren't movie moments. There's no soundtrack, no spotlight, just quiet steps towards something that hurts but heals. And those steps, they are sacred. 3. The quietest step is often the bravest. The world teaches us to look for courage in loud voices, bold moves, epic battles, but real courage, the kind that transforms people, is often quiet. It doesn't need an audience. It doesn't come with certainty, and it rarely feels like strength in the moment. More often, it feels like trembling hands, reaching for the doorknob anyway, like saying goodbye when every part of you wants to stay, like showing up to a new beginning while still grieving the ending. Courage is the single mother walking into a courtroom to protect her child, the terminal patient smiling for the ones they love, the young person coming out and risking rejection just to finally be themselves. It is the step forward that no one claps for, the yes whispered through tears, the breath taken before doing something terrifying but necessary. And that is the kind of bravery that changes lives, not because it's fearless, but because it's fully aware of what could be lost and still chooses to keep walking. Sometimes we don't need definitions to understand courage. We just need a name, a moment, a man who made a choice, knowing exactly what it would cost. Because the quote says it best, "The bravest are surely those who have the clearest vision of what is before them, yet go out to meet it anyway." And no one lived those words more fully than a young Navy SEAL whose final act etched his name into the soul of a nation. Let me tell you about Lieutenant Michael Murphy. 1. Introducing Lieutenant Michael Murphy. In 2005, deep in the unforgiving mountains of Afghanistan, a 4-man Navy SEAL team was sent on a covert mission to track down a high-ranking Taliban leader. Leading that team was a 29-year-old officer from Long Island, New York, calm, disciplined, and fiercely protective of his men. His name, Michael P. Murphy. He wasn't the biggest, he wasn't the loudest, but every man in that team knew when things got dark, Murph would be the one still standing. And soon, they would find out just how true that was. 2. The crisis. No way out. The mission was already dangerous, but what happened next would turn it into one of the deadliest ambushes in modern Navy SEAL history. Shortly after arriving in the mountains of Kunar province, Murphy's team was discovered by local goat herders. Following strict rules of engagement, they chose to release them, a decision that would cost them dearly. Within hours, over 50 heavily armed Taliban fighters descended upon the SEALs' position. Outnumbered, outgunned, no support, no escape. Radio contact was nearly impossible. Terrain was brutal, injuries were mounting, and amidst the chaos, Michael Murphy saw the truth. No help was coming, unless he made it happen. He knew the enemy was surrounding them. He knew the exposed terrain would offer no cover. He knew that leaving his position meant making himself a target. And still, he made a decision that every fiber of survival would have screamed against. He would step out into the open to make the call for help. Because even in that moment, under fire, bleeding, breathing smoke and dust, Michael Murphy wasn't thinking about himself. He was thinking about his men. 3. The brave act. Walking into fire. Murphy knew exactly what he was doing. He looked at his teammates. Wounded, trapped, running low on ammo, and made the call that only a leader with absolute courage could make. He left cover. He climbed to higher ground, to a clearing exposed on all sides. No rocks to shield him, no shadows to hide behind. He knew the moment he stepped into the open, he would become the sole target. But he also knew it was the only way to get a signal out. He pulled out the radio, stood tall, bullets tearing through the air around him, and calmly gave their coordinates. He was shot, but he didn't stop. Shot again. Still, he held his ground. Voice steady. Focus unbroken. He completed the call. He asked for reinforcements. He requested medical evac. And when the call ended, he didn't run. He fought his way back to his men, bleeding, barely standing, but still commanding, still trying to keep his team alive. That final call would become one of the most selfless acts in SEAL history. Because of it, one teammate survived. Because of it, help eventually came. And because of it, the world came to know what courage really looks like. Not loud, not reckless, but deliberate and utterly selfless. 4. The final moments and the legacy of Murph. Michael Murphy didn't survive that day. Shortly after completing the call for help, his injuries overcame him. He collapsed on the mountainside, still facing the direction of the fight, still trying to shield his team. Until his last breath, he died with his boots on, his eyes open, and his courage fully lived. He didn't go out in a blaze of glory. He went out in quiet defiance of fear, in complete devotion to the lives beside him. He was 29 years old, and yet, what he left behind was timeless. For his actions that day, Michael Murphy was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor, the highest military decoration in the United States. But to those who knew him, his legacy wasn't just in the medal. It was in the man, in the way he trained harder than anyone else, in the way he stood up for what was right, even when it meant standing alone, in the way he lived every day, with that rare kind of courage, the kind that sees death and walks toward it anyway, because someone else needs to live. Today, his name lives on in the SEAL teams, in military schools, in memorials carved in stone, and perhaps most powerfully, in a single word, Murph. It's no longer just a name. It's a symbol of sacrifice, of leadership, of the kind of bravery that doesn't need to be loud, because it speaks for itself. When the battle is yours, maybe you're not a soldier, maybe you've never carried a rifle, never worn a uniform, never walked into a firefight, but that doesn't mean you don't know battle. Because right now, you might be standing in front of something just as terrifying in its own way. A decision that could break your heart, a conversation you've been avoiding, a truth that's painful to face, a goodbye you didn't choose, a loss that still echoes in the quiet. And maybe, like Murphy, you know exactly what stepping forward might cost you. The tears, the change, the letting go, the unknown. You see it all, and your hands still tremble. You feel it in your chest. That pull to retreat, to turn back, to wait for the storm to pass. But something inside you, something deeper, knows you can't, you won't. Because even if no one else sees your courage, you know what it means to walk through fear. For something or someone you love. This is your fight. And you are not alone. A new definition of bravery. We've been told that bravery is bold, loud, unshakable. But the truth? Bravery can look like silence, like shaking hands, like one small step. When every part of you wants to run, bravery can be waking up to face a day you don't think you're strong enough for, making the phone call you've rehearsed 100 times in your head, sitting beside someone you love, and telling them the truth, even when it might break their heart. Bravery isn't about being fearless. It's about walking forward while still afraid. It's about carrying the fear with you, but refusing to let it lead. It's about staying present when escape would be easier, about choosing integrity when compromise would be more convenient. Bravery is not a lightning bolt. It's a slow burn, a decision you make again and again and again. Not because you know it'll end well, but because it's the right thing to do. So if your voice shakes, if your knees are weak, if your heart pounds, but you still take the step, that's courage. And that is more than enough, the most powerful kind of courage. So here's what I hope you remember. You don't have to wait until the fear goes away, until your heart feels steady, until the path looks safe. You just have to move, even if it's slowly, even if it's shaking, even if it hurts, because the most powerful kind of courage isn't found in moments of glory. It's found in the quiet seconds, when you say to yourself, I know this might break me, but I'm going anyway. That's what Lieutenant Michael Murphy did. That's what heroes do. That's what you can do too. Not because you're fearless, but because you're full of something stronger than fear. Conviction, love, purpose. So walk forward, even if it's just one step, because every time you do, you become the kind of brave that changes the world, starting with your own. If you're walking a hard road right now, a road that scares you, a road full of unknowns, a road where every step feels heavier than the last, then this space was made for you, not to fix you, not to push you, just to remind you, you are not walking alone. Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's a quiet breath before the next step, a silent whisper. Keep going. So if this story touched something in you, if you saw your own reflection in the trembling bravery of someone like Murph, I invite you to leave a grist in the comments. Not as a badge, not as a performance, but as a symbol that you're still moving, still showing up, still walking, even when it's hard. And if you'd like to stay connected, to hear more stories of quiet strength and unwavering hearts, then I'll be right here, telling the next story, carrying the next flame, walking beside you, because this journey isn't about being unafraid. It's about walking through fear, together,